Morning everybody, welcome to another episode of Midnight Garage. In this video, I'm going to go over the steps of what's involved in replacing rockers and cab corners on one of these 99 to 07 style GM trucks. Okay, well let's show you guys what we're working on here this week. So, we have all seen these trucks, pretty common. Once they, like all pickup trucks, they hit around 10 years old, they start to rot. So, we're going to be doing rocker panels, cab corners. Yeah, so now you can see, these cab corners don't look bad, but I do see a bit of bubbling underneath there. But the truth is, once you're cutting these rockers off, even if your cab corners look good, it's silly not to do them because they will need to be done. So what we're using on this truck, now I'm going to show you these aftermarket rockers first. So these are, in this case, so obviously you've noticed, but this is a regular cab pickup. I've done, seems like hundreds of these trucks, but usually extended cabs. I think it was the first regular cab I've ever done. But the regular cab rockers are RP 1401, and it'll be a 1402 for the other side. Now these, you can get the, $60 rocker panels that are those crappy slip-on style. I don't know if I have some remnants of them around here. Actually, yeah, there's a chunk of the, so here's what the slip-on style is like. That's just a piece of one, obviously. So these, you just plug weld underneath and they just kind of go to that lip. Not a terrible way to do them, but if it's a truck you are keeping, that is definitely the way to go. Now you can see these are probably, just stamped 18 gauge, pretty standard. But these things are heavy. These are probably 12 gauge steel, really good quality, really heavy. Okay, and then in this case, so our cab corners, left side's an LKQ 105-9701. Be a 9702 for the other side. And I got inner rockers for this one as well. They pretty much always need these. Again, if it's, you're just patching up a truck to last, another 5 years, you may not need to do these, but on something that you plan on keeping alive, and that's it's definitely good practice to always replace the inners. So yeah. RRP 1253, and I believe it's a 1254 for the right side. Now all of these parts are available through your local auto parts store, so they can always get you this stuff. Now before we get tearing it down, so you see those rockers will go right into the factory spot welds. And we'll splice them in somewhere here. And usually what I do on these, I'm not decided how this truck's going to go yet. I will typically splice these in at the front. And that just saves having to take the fenders off. Usually the metal's good. If I get up there and I find it's still rusty up at the front, then I'll be taking the fenders off and we'll go right up and around. But it's not usually necessary. So, that said, I am going to start tearing this thing down, and then we will come back for another look. So I'm going to start trimming some of this old sheet metal out of the way. I'm going to start with the cab corner. Typically with the cab corners, now they give you lots of extra on these. And I say it all the time in these videos, the idea isn't to, use the whole piece, it's to use what you need. So I'll probably start trimming down around here somewhere, see how the metal looks. If it's good clean metal, then we won't need to go any higher. I mean, if the rust goes up beyond, then we just keep going until we find clean metal. So I'm going to start taking some of these spot welds out of the cab corner here, and then we'll trim this out, and then we'll move on to the rocker. So here's a look at the inside of the cab corner. I folded that over, but you can see. So they looked pretty good on the outside, but they are already bursting through. You can see the bubbling at the bottom. So they were, you know, still looked okay, but they were definitely due to be changed. So that's where your rust comes from, the stuff that sits inside. You know, it's that, you know, I say it all the time, typically by the time you see it on the outside, it's through from the inside. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit, and then I will move on to cutting that rocker off. So I've got most of the rocker trimmed out of the way. Like I say, I always just kind of trim to a point and then make a decision how much farther I'm going to go. You can still see there's some flaking in there, so we'll go back a little farther. This inner is in better shape than, well, pretty much anyone I've seen. This is a good truck. So I was kind of on the fence whether or not I was even going to change that. I always like to order them. I put them on the estimate. If it turns out truck is solid, doesn't need them, well then I just return the parts and take them off the estimate. But as you get back here, you can see, I don't know if you can see, but yeah, that inner is gone at the back here. So I'm going to go ahead and change it. So I'm going to start trimming that out after I have a quick break. Okay, so I've got that backing plate cut off. I didn't bother filming because it was just drilling out spot welds and a little bit of fighting with the air chisel. Pretty tricky to get up underneath there. You see where it welds to these cab cross braces. So that's all out of there. So I'm gonna go ahead now and just clean everything up where the new one needs to weld to. And I'll kind of show you what I'm doing here. So this is gonna go all the way to the back. This would also go right to the front if we were taking fenders off, which I'm not gonna do. So what I'm gonna do, now you can see where I've trimmed this. I've left this hole here. I'm gonna be able to line that hole up with this hole. I'll overlap it a little bit, and I'll basically trim this one back just beyond that hole. So I'm gonna be right around there. And I'll be able to plug weld to that, and then seam seal the backside. And that is going to be nice and strong. So, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and dolly all of this stuff straight, was bent up a little bit, and grind all this stuff clean, get some weld-through primer on it, and then we'll get this panel fitted up. Here's that backing plate in place. So you can see the way I've kind of trimmed off the front. I just cut a little bit off of there. So we're going to plug weld it to the existing good metal, and then we've got plug welds along that top flange. I have sprayed some weld-through primer on there before I put this in place. And just a few around the back, kind of hard to see. But I'm gonna pull the welder over here and start burning that on. So there is our inner panel welded in place. So I'm going to start trimming up this rocker panel to fit. Before the rocker panel is welded on, I will be putting some seam sealer and primer over these exposed welds. But yeah, so I'm probably going to cut this back a little more, both ends, and start figuring out where this guy's going to live. So I'm going to start doing some trimming, and we'll come back in a minute for a look. So there is the rocker panel trimmed up to fit. It just needs a little bit of fine tuning, but I'm going to pop it back off, prime those welds on the inside, and drill some holes for spot welds, and we'll get this one ready to start tacking in place. So I've got everything tidied up here, ready to put the rocker in place. I've slopped some seam sealer just around the seams on this just to keep it watertight. Some weld-through primer over everything. I've got some holes drilled for the spot welds on the rocker. So I'm going to set it in place. I'll probably put a couple of spot welds on it. And you don't want to final weld anything without test fitting the door. These usually kind of go right into place as long as you line them up properly. But I'm going to get it in place, tack it in place, check the door, and then we'll start fitting the cab corner probably. Alright, so there's the door sitting in place. So our gap looks good. It's probably hard to see on camera, but you can see there's a nice even gap all the way across. So that will be okay to weld in place there. But I think while the door is on, we'll probably go ahead and start fitting up this cab corner. It's kind of getting to the end of the day here today, so not sure how much more I'll do, but I'm gonna do a little more. I'll keep recording here for you guys. Hey, good morning. It's the next day. So figured I'd bring you guys back in for another look before I get going here for the day. So I did a little more welding on the rocker before I finished up yesterday. So I've got it pretty much welded in. I've got a little more welding to do at the front when the door comes back off. So now I'm going to start fitting the cab corner. So like I said, when I cut it, we just kind of go up till we know we have clean metal. I mean, we're definitely in clean metal here. So I'm just going to start trimming this guy up to basically fit where I've trimmed. I have a little more trimming up to do at the back. Now, obviously this truck is kind of nice, being a flat deck. I didn't have to take a pickup box off, so that's a bonus. So I can get in behind there with the welder. I've got, I won't say plenty of room, but I have enough room. So I'm going to start trimming this to fit. You know, I probably won't film it. I'm basically just a little trial and error. I'll cut it and kind of keep trimming until I've got a nice button match there. And then I'll bring you guys back in for a look. So I've been trimming on the cab corner. Now when you're doing these, there's lots of trial and error. Take a little bit off, fit it again, a little bit off, fit it again until you get it just right. So right about there is where it's going to live. Suck that in a little bit there. So our fit is good there. So I'm going to pull that back off, treat in behind before we weld it on. So there's the inner cab corner, cleaned up, a little primer on it. I just spread some steam sealer over some of the welds and stuff just to give it a little more protection inside. I've drilled the cab corner for some plug welds. So I am ready to start tacking that on. Okay, if you are still with me watching this, we've got this side pretty much all welded up. You can see the cab corner is all welded in. Sorry, the lights, the shit's under there, but everything's welded up along there. The gap is nice. So my next step, I'm just going to pop this door back off, finish up a bit of welding along the front, and then I'll be ready for a little bit of filler, but I'll probably wait until I've got the other side done. So just all these welds just need to be smoothed off, a little body filler. So I'm going to finish that up, and then jump over and get the other side done, and then I'll bring you guys back maybe when we're into finishing some of this up. Okay, so it's probably been a couple days since I last brought you guys in on this. But here I've got the passenger side all welded up, as you can see. The rocker in place, cab quarter in place. Everything is welded. Take a quick walk around to the other side. I guess you've seen the driver's side anyway. So yeah, this side's all in place. So next up's going to be some body work. I'm not going to bother filming that because, you know, it's just body filler and sanding. So, but basically what you see here, I just need to put some, I'm going to put a little fiberglass filler over the weld, smooth it out, finish it off with a little bit of plastic body filler, and then we'll be ready for primer. And yeah, I'll just periodically bring you guys back in for a look. And we'll go from there. So she's ready to mask up for some primer. So both doors have been back on just for one last fit, make sure everything's good. I did a little extra on this one, cleaned up some rust spots on the bottom of the door for the customer. So there's a little bit of body work done. You can see it's just a little bit of body filler to smooth out the welds. So there's that side. Yeah, there's this side all done. So I'm going to go ahead and get this masked up, get some primer on it. I won't bother recording all of that because you've all seen that stuff before. But we'll come back for another look once it's primed and hopefully the inner steps painted. And it's a good thing I didn't just go driving straight into the paint booth, because that's a problem. It doesn't fit. I didn't think it was going to fit lengthways, but I wasn't paying attention to how high those racks were on this thing. So anyway, looks like I'll just be building a little plastic tent over the doors out here to keep everything blowing in that way. Yeah. Anyway, adapt and overcome. Alright, morning everyone. It's Monday morning again, so thought I'd bring you in for one more look before I get started here. So it's like 4:30 in the morning. So that's the part of getting close to 50 people don't tell you about. You can't sleep in anymore. So there's where we're at. So I've gone ahead and painted the jambs. So on something like this, I mean, I could have painted the complete rockers and cab corners all at once, but because I am choosing to paint the bottom of the doors as well, then it's just easier to paint the jamb, throw the doors on, and I'll get it all prepped up and paint it all at once. So that's that part taken care of. So I'm going to throw the doors on, get this thing prepped up, get it painted. Maybe we'll come in for another look before I paint it. But yeah, we'll just see how it goes here today. Alright, well here she is all finished up for you guys. Cab corners, rocker panels. So I'll go around to the other side, a little easier to see. So yeah, here's the finished product. In this case, I just painted up to the body line on the door there. It just kind of blends everything in nice. And there was a little rust on the door there I figured I'd take care of for the customer. There she is, all finished up, painted. So these ones are a little tough. They're maybe not really a do-it-yourself job. I mean, obviously it can be, but you need to have a welder. You need to have a few tools for sure and a place to do it. But hopefully if you are going to try and tackle that, this helps you out with your project. And as always, if it does help you out, leave me a comment, let me know. If it doesn't help you out, leave me a comment, let me know. Let me know if there's anything else you would like to see, or anything more in depth that might help more. So yeah, so leave a comment on the video. Do me a favor and hit the subscribe, because that really helps me out to keep these videos coming. And I hope to see you in the next one.